Kamita. All right, folks, today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. Coming up at Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're live at Black Lives Matter Plaza. In just a moment, Camila turned that way. The family of George Floyd, Attorney Ben Crump, Senator Kamala Harris, as well as Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee are making their way as we speak to the plaza. We're going to talk to them live, an exclusive interview right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We got a jam-packed show for you. It's time to bring the funk of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Hey, folks, we're here live in Black Lives Matter Plaza here in Washington, D.C. A few moments ago, the brother of George Floyd, along with family attorney Ben Crump, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, they have just arrived here. They want to be able to come and visit this site as well. Former Congressman Kendrick Meek is back as well. Senator Kamala Harris was here. I think she's approaching as well. Again, they just finished testifying on Capitol Hill, where there was a congressional hearing, House Judiciary Committee, dealing with the issue of police brutality. And so they've been doing meetings all day, and then that's why they actually came. So they're going to be talking in a few moments as they come down here. Okay, and so what you want to do is you want that as your background? While it's in the background? All right. So I don't want to get close to that music so we can actually hear. So we'll do it as soon as we cross right there, right there. All right, with that music, all that music, we might want to do it. We want to do it right here because all that music. So we'll swing this way. Media, swing around this way. Swing around this way. We're shooting that way. Yep.
Okay. You got your space on?
We good. We're good. First and foremost, to the Floyd family, why did y'all want to come down here after today's hearing?
In memory of my brother, I needed...
Speak a little bit louder since we on the media.
In memory for my brother, I needed justice for him. So I came to Washington so everybody can hear my voice.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, House Judiciary Committee at the hearing today. A lot of different conflicting testimony. How important was it for the nation to have that testimony to talk about police brutality?
It was a significant and potent moment in history. It was a hearing that gave a wide variety of solutions. The most significant voice was the voice of this dear brother of George Floyd. And I think that no matter what party you were in, you recognize that this is a moment that must change policing from warrior to guardian. He gave us every evidence why the legislation is part of the journey that we must take, and we cannot turn back. There are too many voices that are crying out. And we thank them and Ben Crump, his lovely bride here, his wife, and everyone that came, because they made a significant difference today in that hearing. The record is clear.
Ben Crump, we're already seeing lots of changes, different cities voting, New York State voted to open up records as well. And so I can't recall, can you recall any time where you've seen this type of movement in just 2 weeks?
Roland, we've been doing this a lot, even before Trayvon, and I've never seen anything like the dynamics after the killing of George Floyd. And I will say this, if we're gonna have the culture and the behavior of police change in America, it has to start at the top. And that's why we came at the request of Sheila Jackson Lee to the United States Congress to tell them that they have to make it mandated across the country all police officers, all police departments have to give equal justice to people like George Floyd because Black Lives Matter.
A few hours ago, the White House had a meeting with a number of black Republicans and others talking about race relations. The president still hasn't done a national address. Do you want to hear from him? And if so, what should he say?
Sign the bill.
Sign the bill.
Sign the
bill.
You know, I will say this, Roland. I was talking to Tesman Figueroa, my political consultant, and the one thing he kept saying, rhetoric is one thing, action is another. Them signing the bill, the Senate passing, they keep calling and offering condolences. Well, you can do something about it. Pass the legislation, pass the George Floyd law.
Congresswoman, is it tough enough?
You know,
should there be more in it?
George Floyd would be alive today if that bill was law. We know there are many other things, but that bill exudes Black Lives Matter. All around it, it says no chokehold, in racial profiling, in the fact that you do not hold police officers accountable. You can't be denied your civil rights. You must wear across the nation, you must wear your body camera. You can't say you left it in the car. If all of that, and then you have a duty to intervene. Those other 3 officers, they would have had to do something other than think about what was going on. George Floyd would have been alive today if he had not been profiled, if he had not been a chokehold, and there had not been the factor in someone's mindset, oh, you know what, I can't be held accountable. That's what this bill does. It puts you in your tracks, but on the same time, it starts at the front. Recruiting, diversity, accreditation, and defining what excessive force really is considered. And so you know that you're wrong. Yes, it has the elements, but it's not the end. It is not even the beginning. But it is something that puts a stop sign up for what happened to our dear brother who was killed on the streets of America as an innocent man. He did not deserve to be murdered. Black lives do matter.
If it passes the House and goes to the Senate, Mitch McConnell doesn't even bring it up, should that be a referendum for anybody voting on a senator in November?
Well, I think if you're not going to be committed to civil rights and civil liberties and saving lives, then that is a litmus test for your election. There's just no other doubt about it.
Ben Crump, last question for you, for me. Corporations all of a sudden speaking out, making statements, and now reassessing themselves. What more should they do? A statement is one thing, but should they be looking at black board members, black executives, minority supplier development? That's really what's tangible.
Exactly, Roland Martin. Corporations, elected leaders, people who say they want to make a difference, your actions speak so loud, we need not hear your words. Fortune 500 companies, this is an opportunity for you to give scholarships at historically black colleges and universities in the name of George Floyd to let people know that his legacy is alive and well. That's right. And so right now, we're gonna go and walk down by the church, and we're gonna ask everybody to put their fists in the sky, get them up and raise them high. As we remember George Floyd Jr., his brother called him Perry, y'all.
Get your fist. As I stand here as well in the name of the Congressional Black Caucus, 55 members strong, including 2 members of the United States Senate, that said that they will not stop until this bill gets passed. They wrote it. We wrote it together. We've got to be known as the organization, the members of Congress that listen to the outcry of the people and stand with the family in time of need.
So here's what I want everybody to do for us. As we walk down here for justice for George Floyd, we want to say repeatedly until we get to the church, put your fists in the sky, get them up, raise them high. Put your fists in the sky, get them up, raise them high. Put your fists in the sky, get them up, raise them high. All right, God.
Hold on.
Put your fists in the sky, get them up, raise them high.
I got it. Back up, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Cable.
Back up faster, please.
Go higher, go higher, go higher.
in the sky. Put your fist 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 in the sky. Fist in the sky. Fist in the sky. Fist in the sky. Raise them up, raise them high. Fist in the sky. Raise them up, raise them high. Raise them up, raise them high. Put your fist in the sky. Raise them up, raise them high. Put your fist in the sky. Raise them up, raise them high. Put your fist in the sky. Raise them up, raise them high. Put your fist in the sky. Raise them up, raise them high. Put your fist in the sky. Raise them up, raise them high. Raise them up, raise them high. Raise them up, raise them high.
here while I take care of everybody. All right, folks, so we're here again. White House is behind us. So again, White House behind us. And so the family of George Floyd with attorney Ben Crump, they have finished the protest here. They want to be able to come down here and again stand with the protesters out here as they've been out here for quite some time. And so that's it for us. We're going to head back into the studio for the rest of the show. We're going to go to a commercial break right now. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered live here in Black Lives Matter Plaza in front of Lafayette Plaza, right in front of the White House. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, so a lot of y'all always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club.
These are not acts of peaceful protest. These are acts of domestic terror by an angry mob.
The president insulting anybody who dared to speak against him. And that is dangerous for our democracy. It's dangerous for our country. The country is getting wise to this, and we're not going to put up with it anymore.
There is a change in mindset that's taking place, a greater recognition that we can do better.
Let's stop thinking that our voice don't matter and vote. What's his name?
The men who followed this flag 150 years ago knew what it meant. Treason against their country. The death of the United States. America defeated the men who followed that flag. Those with honor surrendered and cast it aside forever. So why does it keep showing up today at events supporting Donald Trump? And why does he call the folks who carry it very fine people?
I think there's blame on both sides, but you also had people that were very fine people.
What does it say that they're all in for Trump? What does it say that he won't condemn a flag of hate, division, and losers?
Will not replace us!
For us, it says this is a time for choosing America or Trump.
Support Roland Martin Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, woo! Back in the studio, sweating a little bit, but it's all good. It, of course, is quite a busy day. We're literally located right at the corner of 16th and K, and so we're certainly glad to be able to step out there and cover the story as well. It has been quite a busy day. Before, as we said out there, they were testifying on Capitol Hill with regards to police brutality. Here's a roundup of the testimony today. Okay, guys, let me know so I can be able to have that package. So bring up the panel, please. Scott Bolden, of course, attorney, Washington, D.C., joins us right now. Robert Patillo, attorney out of Georgia. And we also have, is my third guest there? All right, Cleo Monago. All right, we'll pull them up. All right, make sure everybody's there. So let's, we're gonna have the package in a second, folks. Let me know when we have it ready. Bottom line, the point I made out there, Scott, I can't recall a moment in my lifetime where we have seen this much movement on police accountability in 2 weeks. George Floyd was murdered 2 weeks ago Monday.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And it's not just the power of the video of George Floyd because he was not resisting. I think the police in the peaceful protest demonstrated to black folks and white folks and brown folks that there's something fundamentally wrong with the police department and police officers, black, white, yellow, or brown. You saw at a time when the police could have demonstrated restraint and their professionalism. And what did we see? We saw the police brutalizing people in New York, in D.C., in Buffalo, New York, in New York City. And you saw cities and governors and mayors firing police officers within hours of those video protests, and even police officers being charged. That's power. They weren't abusing just black people who were anarchists or who were looting. They were abusing people who were black and white. They pushed a 75-year-old man down. And this president argued that he may have been a plant for Antifa. It makes no sense. And corporations and big law firms like mine are no more in denial, but are owning to be better, and that Black Lives Matter, and that there are two Americas. White corporations and white America are admitting there's two Americas, one black and one white, and that's really what you see unfolding. It's got to last. You're going to see legislation, but also you're going to see whether we can have a discussion now, a fearless one on race, racism, and reconciliation. I certainly hope so.
You're an attorney. Have you seen anything like this, and the speed in which things are moving?
You talking to me,
Robert?
Scott? Robert.
Roland. I think what we're seeing right now is the Me Too movement for American racism, because just as we saw in Me Too, every organization got shook down to its bones once they realized that their day of reckoning had come for the way that they had treated women for decades, if not centuries. And what this video did, what this kind of Kairos moment that we're in has articulated, is that Me Too moment for American racism. Because the reason companies are acting so quickly is because they wanted to keep the attention off of them and their racist policies and their racist actions over the years, and try to throw money at it and get you to pay attention to the police. The reason municipalities are doing the same thing is, if they have you protesting, only protesting against the police, you're not going to look at their racist policies and redlining and housing discrimination, the allocation of resources. So what we're saying is this moment of reckoning, as America has to come to terms with everything that it has done to people, to black people in this country since 1619, when we first got off of those boats, and realizing they have to come to terms with that. So the fact that things are moving this fast is a result of a confluence of issues, everything from COVID-19, the quarantines, 40 million people suddenly being unemployed and having nothing else to do but show up at marches and protests, schools being out, every high school and elementary school in the country for the most part, and it was not in every large city, those students are home and they're able to protest, colleges releasing early, not having college graduations, not having proms this year, a pent-up anger and anxiety in this nation and a feeling that something needs to change. This is a 1968 moment, but it may be bigger than 1968. This is a moment where the entire nation is on fire at one time, when you have the multiple movements coming together in the name of George Floyd, but so much deeper of a level. He is the martyr in this situation. He is the touchstone. He is the straw that broke the camel's back. But let's remember, the reason the camel's back broke is because there were a million straws underneath it. So this may have been what set it off, but this has been simmering in America for years and for generations, and it's about time that we finally stood up as a people and realized that folks who say they have power over us do not. The old chant we used to do in marches, the people united will never be defeated. We see what happens when the people are united. Corporate America, the political apparatus moves, they move quickly, and we have to keep this heat up, because just as Sheila Jackson Lee said, and just as you were discussing on the street, we have not seen what the Republican plan is on this. They put Tim Scott in charge of of drafting their proposals. Who knows why Tim Scott is the person they picked, but I'm really glad that he is, because he has the most experience with police brutality and the most experience on the issue. But I want to know who is in that posse with Tim Scott. Who are the Republicans that got his back? Who are the people in the GOP who are going to be fighting to make sure that whatever his recommendations are getting pushed through? Tim Scott has already recommended the Walter Scott bill on police notification. So let's find out what their proposals are going to be, and make sure we push these things through and get some good legislation, not just shut me up legislation.
And again, Cleo, there are some people out there who are saying, oh my God, I don't want to hear from Senator Tim Scott. Here's my whole deal. I want to see what you put up. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see if the bill that Senator Tim Scott puts up is more aggressive than what the Congressional Black Caucus and the House Democrats put up. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but I want to see what you're going to put up first. But here's the deal. The Democrats have put down the marker. It better be equal or stronger than what they put on the table, Cleo.
Well, I kind of doubt if Tim Scott's going to put up something that's equal or stronger. But as you said, we will see. But I just want to echo how much I agree with Robert's, what he just said a moment ago. I completely agree. And also, I just want to reiterate that we have not seen anything like this before. And I think it's important to deconstruct the factors. We haven't had a pandemic before. We haven't had young people not being able to go to school before. We haven't had social restrictions before. And I think these are all factors leading to so many people being on the street, because I'm feeling like it's all very surreal, because George Floyd's murder was not a new phenomenon. We've seen it before, and we've seen video of straight up murders, Philando Castile, et cetera, right on tape. And this kind of reaction didn't occur.
But Cleo, this was a different video. I mean, the reality is this was different in that, I mean, yes, we've seen other cases, but I think this was a different video. This hit people a different way, to watch an officer callously put his hands in his pocket and sit on this man for nearly 10 minutes.
Well, I must admit, I have yet to see the George Floyd murder.
Well, I'm telling you.
But I did see the Walter Scott murder.
Yeah,
but I remember how callous the cop was and how he very casually pulled out his gun and murdered another human being and looked at his wrist like it was no big deal. And to me, that was extremely callous as well, just like the murder of Tamir Rice was callous. But no, I don't have the advantage of having seen George Floyd's murder because I didn't want to have to live with that because I already have rage and frustration because of all the other murders that went without any type of justice. So I didn't see it.
Well,
so
I'm going to tell you right now, that's why this is hitting differently. That's why you're seeing the reaction.
You got to watch it.
Because to see that video at that 17-year-old black woman recorded for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, to see this cop, to see the three other cops just standing around and to see him hands in his pocket like it's no big deal. He's yelling, gasping for air. The crowd is saying the man can't breathe. That's why this has hit different. Today, folks.
So you don't think that all the cofactors like COVID?
No.
And the social restrictions?
No, it's that video.
No.
Look, in terms of the people showing up in the streets, I don't agree with that.
No, I don't. I think, obviously, here's the deal. You had COVID, you got coronavirus. People are actually, Ellie Mistel with The Nation put a piece out. People are putting their lives on the line by going out and protesting. So I don't think people are like, hey, guess what? We can now go out and protest.
And there were people, particularly white people, who are complaining about COVID-19, who are out in the streets resisting the restrictions before George Floyd was murdered.
Cleo, we showed those crowds. Those crowds who were saying open the state doesn't even compare to the crowds we've seen in Houston, D.C., Los Angeles, New York. And what I'm saying is this is different. There's no doubt about it. Today on Capitol Hill, there was testimony by the House Judiciary Committee. The Floyd family spoke, as well as other folks as well. Let's go and hear some of what they had to say.
Thank you for the invitation here today to talk about my big brother, George. The world knows him as George, but I called him Perry. Yesterday, we laid him to rest. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I'm the big brother now. So it's my job to comfort my brothers and my sisters, Perry's kids, and everyone who loved him. And that's a lot of people. I have to be the strong one now because George is gone. And me being the big brother now is why I'm here today, to do what Perry always would have done, to take care of the family and others. I couldn't take care of George that day he was killed, but maybe by speaking with you today, I can make sure that his death will not be in vain. To make sure that he is more than another face on a t-shirt, more than another name on a list that won't stop growing. George always made sacrifices for our family, and he made sacrifices for complete strangers. He gave the little that he had to help others. He was our gentle giant. I was reminded of that when I watched the video of his murder. He called all the officers sir. He was mild-mannered. He didn't fight back. He listened to all the officers. The man who took his life, who suffocated him for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, he still called them sir as he begged for his life. I can't tell you the kind of pain you feel when you watch something like that. When you watch your big brother, who you looked up to your whole entire life, die begging for his mom. I'm tired. I'm tired of pain. Pain you feel when you watch something like that. When you watch your big brother, who you looked up to for your whole life, die begging for his mom. I'm here to ask you to make it stop. Stop the pain. Stop us from being tired. George called for help and he was ignored. Please listen to the call I'm making to you now, to the calls of our family and the calls ringing out the streets across the world. People of all backgrounds, genders, and races have come together to demand change. Honor them, honor George, and make the necessary changes that make law enforcement the solution and not the problem. Hold them accountable when they do something wrong. Teach them what it means to treat people with empathy and respect. Teach them what necessary force is. Teach them that deadly force should be used rarely and only when life is at risk. George wasn't hurting anyone that day. He didn't deserve to die over $20. I'm asking you, is that what a black man is worth? $20? This is 2020. Enough is enough. The people marching in the streets are telling you enough is enough. By the leaders that in our country, the world needs the right thing. The people elected you to speak for them, to make positive change. George's name means something. You have the opportunity here today to make your names mean something too. If his death ends up changing the world for the better, and I think it will, then he died as he lived. It is on you to make sure his death is not in vain. I didn't get the chance to say goodbye to Perry while he was here. I was robbed of that. But I know he's looking down at us now. Perry, look up at what you did. Big brother, you changed the world. Thank you for everything, for taking care of us when on earth, for taking care of us now. I hope you found mama and you can rest in peace with power. Thank you.
Last week, the Leadership Conference and more than 400 civil rights organizations sent a letter to Congress to move us forward on a path of true accountability. The recommendations included the following. 1, create a national necessary standard on the use of force. 2, prohibit racial profiling, including robust data collection. 3, ban the use of chokeholds and other restraint maneuvers. 4, end the militarization of policing. 5, prohibit the use of no-knock warrants, especially in drug cases. 6, strengthen federal accountability systems and increase the Justice Department's authority to prosecute officers that engage in misconduct. 7, create a national police misconduct registry. And 8, end qualified immunity. The Leadership Conference was pleased to learn that the Justice and Policing Act, introduced Monday by both members of the House of Representatives and the Senate, reflects much of this accountability framework.
On Monday, I introduced, along with Chairman Nadler and more than 200 members of Congress, H.R. 7120, the Justice and Policing Act. This bold, transformative legislation would help reimagine the culture of policing while holding accountable those officers who failed to uphold the ethic of serving and protecting their communities. I know later, when we do a markup, we will entertain an amendment to change the name of the legislation in honor of George Floyd. If this had been a law last year, George Floyd would be alive because chokeholds would be banned. Breonna Taylor would be alive because no-knock warrants for drugs would be banned. Tamir Rice would have graduated high school this May because the officer that killed him, had been fired from a nearby department, and he lied on his application. But this legislation calls for a national registry, so that would not have happened, and Tamir Rice would have graduated high school.
I want to begin by stating that the prospect of defunding and or dismantling police forces across the country is one of the most unwise, irresponsible proposals by American politicians in our nation's history, and makes absolutely no sense at all, at least to me. I believe it is nothing short of the politicizing of current social events in an effort to garner votes during this election season. I also believe that it's a reactionary measure that can and will result in short and long-term damage to American society, particularly in our inner city and urban communities.
Most of the systems that we are talking about were determined why we police, how we police, where we police, were constructed in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they were actually constructed to enforce Jim Crow and other discriminatory practices. In other words, this committee should acknowledge The nation needs to acknowledge that our policing systems are in fact not broken. They are doing what they were actually designed to do. To understand this hard truth is to recognize that this system cannot be reformed, it must be reconstructed. It also means that the demand for policing reform should not require an indictment against all police. In fact, it is our hope that our brothers and sisters who wear the badge will not only embrace this moment, but will join this movement and become a part of the change that is needed. We've seen police chiefs and officers walk with crowds and take a knee, and that is great. We now need them to take a stance and stand with the community as we reconstruct this unjust system.
It's way past time that we revise the role of police to become peacekeepers and community partners. Of course, they must be prepared to protect themselves and the public in direct, life-threatening situations. But these should be the exception and not the rule.
American issue that has turned into yet another American tragedy. We all have to get this. Lord knows I want to get this right.
Violence against unarmed African Americans is the inability to hold officers who engage in this conduct accountable. Now, this is not just about the individual officer who some refer to as a bad apple. This is about a system of accountability that must exist if police officers are to understand that they cannot engage in certain kinds of conduct without impunity.
To make these changes, that is going to also require folks in Congress to do that. One of the folks who wants to be a voice come next year is Dr. Cameron Webb. He's an assistant professor of medicine and public health science at the University of Virginia. He's running for the 5th District in Virginia. You have, of course, the incumbent Republican Denver Riggleman, who is in that position. Dr. Webb, do you believe that the bill the Democrats and the CBC have put forth, is it strong enough? Would you go with that, or you say it needs to be more things added to it? Looks like I think the Skype.
I think
there we
it's
go.
certainly the right starting point. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a good starting point to meet.
Let's start over. Your Skype froze. Now I think we got you. Go ahead.
Okay. What I was saying was I think that it's a good starting point to meet the moment that we're in right now. You know, certainly speaking to issues of accountability, speaking to issues of training, speaking to this notion of lynching and modernizing that concept so that it speaks to the atrocities that we've seen lately. And also, I think finally, it just speaks to this idea of more data transparency so that we know who the officers are who are the most problematic. And so I think that it meets some of the current concerns in terms of kind of overhauling our criminal justice system, particularly when it pertains to policing. It falls short of that, but I think it does a lot to address the issues that we've seen most recently. And I don't want us to be chasing our tails, but I think this is really important legislation for us to meet the moment we're in right now.
Obviously, Virginia is a state that has gone blue, very blue, but you're still running in a district, 75% white, 20-some-odd% African American. What is the argument that you're going to make to the voters in that district that you should be sent to Congress?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think there are everyday kitchen table issues that voters in this district care deeply about. Those are issues of education, issues of healthcare, issues of income inequality, access to jobs, issues of criminal justice reform. And to be quite frank, it's no small thing that we've got nearly 20% of the population that's African American in this district. And so I think that, for me, the argument is just really focusing on equity, focusing on this idea that everyone should have opportunities for health and success. And that's what I've been saying since the beginning of this campaign. And I think that's what's resonating with folks so far. So, yeah, I think it's just this idea that across the 21 counties and 2 cities in the district, we want everybody to have an opportunity to succeed. And I think that works no matter what political stripe you're from and also no matter your race or ethnicity.
This is obviously a completely different world we're living in. The George Floyd murder has certainly turned that upside down. You see the reaction out on the streets as well. Look, you're a doctor, assistant professor of medicine and public health at the University of Virginia. Has to concern you to have folks out there protesting, some not having masks, being in close proximity. But it looks like people are saying, you know what, this is more important than me worrying about coronavirus.
Yeah, and I know you've had some of my colleagues here from UVA on the show, Dr. Ebony Hilton, my wife, Dr. Leanne Webb, my colleague, Dr. Tyson Bell. I think we all kind of have been saying similar things, that yes, there's a public health crisis all across this country. We're talking about COVID-19 every day, but the public health crisis of Black men dying at the hands of kind of law enforcement officers, or dying at the hands of citizens who take the law into their own hands, I think that's an enormous public health crisis as well. And so you can't let this crisis go to waste. We can't miss this moment to advocate for change. And so, I'm full-throated in my support of the demonstrations. What I just tell folks all the time is how to do that as safely as possible. Certainly wearing masks, using your signs so you're not chanting as much, even though that's a hard thing to do in demonstrations, maintaining that 6 feet distance, even though we're not seeing that all the time. And what I always tell people is at the end of it, because we're seeing more testing available in the community, go get tested for COVID after you've been out demonstrating, because I think we still have that obligation to each other to be safe. But I mean, I think it's not placing a value judgment on these protests versus, attending your grandmother's funeral, for instance. Those are all critical things folks need to do. I think everybody has to weigh that. But I think our nation's in a different place as states are starting to open up again. And I think we have to meet this moment that we're in. And this has been going on for generations, for 400 plus years now in the United States. And so we've got to meet this moment to advocate for racial justice.
All right, folks, Dr. Cameron Webb looking to become the 56th member of the Congressional Black Caucus in Congress. Certainly good luck in your race for the Virginia 5th Congressional District.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks a bunch. All right, 06, thanks a bunch. Sorry, Scott. I know it hurts you feeling all these alphas.
Do you have any other fraternity on? That's so wrong. That's not fair in broadcasting.
Y'all ain't doing nothing. All right, let's go.
We're doing a lot.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to call the FCC.
Yeah, that's cute. That's Buster. The FCC only regulates those with TV licenses, not online. Cameron Webb, 06, thanks a bunch. I appreciate it. All right, folks, let's talk about this story here, which is pretty interesting, and that is in Los Angeles. Remember the video we showed you of the cop just wailing on this homeless man? Now this officer. Okay, this took place in April. Prosecutors say he has now been charged with felony assault. Frank Hernandez is set to be arraigned on Thursday. Prosecutors say Hernandez and his partner responded to a call of a trespasser at a vacant lot on April 27th. And during that confrontation between the police and the victim, Hernandez illegally punched the unarmed man more than a dozen times in the head, neck, and body. Hernandez was stripped of all police powers. The LAPD says the complaint and use of force investigations are nearing completion. I think it's pretty damn clear what the hell he did, Cleo.
It is pretty damn clear, but as you know, that hasn't mattered until recently. I wanted to just say, because I didn't get a chance to say it last time, because I tend to be interrupted, is that I'm glad that things are as they are. I'm glad that police brutality is on the chopping block. I'm glad that HR 7120 exists, even though I'm not sure it's comprehensive enough. But yeah, I mean, with that, I saw that beating, and that beating was pretty obviously wrong. And now we all know that it's wrong, and supposedly the whole country is in working with each other to resolve it. But I still say that it wasn't for Trump being as ridiculous as he is, COVID locking folks up, and unemployment and people's personal frustrations, the crowds would be so big. But I'm glad they're big. Whatever it's going to take to save Black lives, I'm down with it.
Robert, again, that video, and this is where video absolutely matters. In fact, here's the body cam footage. Go to it right now.
Ben! Fuck you, bitch!
Right there, you need to back up.
Come on, then. Fucker! What the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Quit, motherfucker! Quit! Fuck you! What the fuck is wrong with you, motherfucker? What the fuck's wrong with you, motherfucker? What is wrong with you, dumb? Shut the fuck up!
Can you put your hands behind your back, please?
You're not cooperating. You're gonna get hit again. Get on the fucking ground. Get on the fucking ground. Go and tase the man. Get on the fucking ground.
We got backup coming right now. Come on. Put your hands behind your back.
Shut the fuck up, man. Who are you, dog? Shut the fuck up. What the fuck is wrong with you, my boy? Shut the fuck up. What the fuck is wrong with you, dog? Shut the fuck up.
That's the body camera footage there, Scott.
Wow.
And you hear the officer, Frank. No, officer, she needed to grab him and say, stop.
Right. Who are these police departments
They're
giving
thugs.
guns and badges to?
Right. I mean, that dude was just wailing on that dude. And remember, the initial video, thank goodness for the body camera video, because with the body camera video, we actually hear the audio. But you got to remember, this was the, I'm trying to see, was this the video here? Was this another video? No, it's not it. Let me try to find, this was the initial video that was shot across the street. Go to it.
Oh!
Now you saw right there, keep the video going. So you saw where the officer grabs his shades, throws it on the ground, he keeps wailing, and the female officer, she's just standing back, just like, all right, I'm not gonna get involved in this. And so now you gotta see a chance to see both of those videos. Scott, these are the kind of thugs you got out there. I'm sorry. Immediate firing. Investigation is near the completion. This was April 27th.
I'm shocked. I've never seen that video.
Yeah. We ran it when it happened.
It was a street fight. It wasn't a cop with a badge and a gun and the American flag. It was a street fight. He just went into street fight mode. The guy couldn't get on the ground because he was getting his butt kicked and hit in the back of the head. What is this? See, here's the thing, Roland. You go from the academy and graduating from the academy to protect and serve, and your first day on the job. How does he get from his first day on the job to that, which has nothing to do with protecting and serving? See, what the bill, the federal bill that we've been discussing does not do, at least I haven't seen it and I've read the bill. Who are they giving guns and badges to? What is the psychological testing to root out racists or people who can't deal with stress? How often are we testing police officers? Certainly not on an annual basis or even biannual basis. How do you get from protected and serving to us against them and calling people on the street mopes and perps and animals and dogs, right? Because that's what they call you when they come into the complaint room of the prosecutor's office in New York and elsewhere. That's what we got to get to. We got to do this other stuff, necessary force, qualified immunity. We got to get rid of all of that, right? But it starts with who you hire.
But, right, Robert, real quick before I go to my next guest, real quick, go.
Well, I think the issue to you is that we have to figure out what do we do in situations where there's not video. Because if you look at any lineup of mugshots after a Friday night or after a weekend on a Monday morning, about a quarter of the people brought in will look like they have just been in a street fight, as Scott said. So we have to find out, how do we protect people where there doesn't just happen to be a benevolent cameraman nearby? Do we just teach all black boys to have a drone overhead at all times in order to seek justice? We need to figure out what we can do to protect us when it's not on film. Because trust me, it happens a lot more often than in film.
Well, but here's the
Ron,
problem.
let me tell you something.
Hold on, wait. Here's the issue, Cleo.
I want to say something too.
Here's the issue, Cleo, and this is
I got an answer.
I need everybody to breathe. I'm gonna get to you. Everybody breathe. Here's the issue here, and this is why I am not saying that body cams are the panacea, but the reason every police officer should have a body camera is because we saw that video of the body camera and heard the language the officer was using against this man. 2, in the case of Louisville, Breonna Taylor, cops did not have the body camera footage, so we don't get to see how they busted through the door and what happened inside. David McAtee, who was shot and killed by the Louisville police for breaking curfew, they forgot to turn their cameras on. The mayor fired the police chief because of that. I keep saying it should be in every city contract. If an officer does not turn on the dash cam and does not turn on the body camera, that should be immediate expulsion. No warnings, nothing. That's to protect, Cleo, somebody lying on the officer is to protect the public from a lying cop, because the cops lie in these police reports, Cleo.
Yep. I absolutely agree that body cams should be mandatory and it should be illegal and should be a problem if police don't use them, and there should be some serious consequences. Absolutely. I also got to mention that there's people who were murdered on body cam because of the attitudes that Scott referenced earlier when he said, well, how do these people go from protecting and serving to being bullies? And I want Scott and all of us to understand that. I mean, I've been through police training. I know what the process consists of. And there's some people who become police so they can do what this guy has done.
Exactly.
That's why they become police.
Exactly.
And there has not been a very effective system to actually filter these people out, because a lot of the people in charge of these police systems have anti-Black, unconscious or conscious perspectives. And sometimes this includes some of the Black people. Like I said at the town hall that you did years ago, Roland, a lot of self-hating Black men take these jobs and be acting out on Black folks too. So what needs to be developed, which has not been developed, is a system to understand how internalized white supremacy works and how it becomes violence, and how people can either be disqualified from being cops based on some type of measure, and how they can put criteria in the training system to locate these people. Because again, some people become cops because they were little cowards in school and high school, and they were not as strong as the jock, and they're angry about all kinds of issues, including race and feelings of inadequacy, and they become cops to get a gun and be able to shoot and kill and act out the illusion of their being invincible and powerful.
Scott, your comment.
That, or as Robert says all the time, they have white supremacy views and they join the police force because they're members of the KKK. But this is what you do without a body cam. Prosecutors, if they're doing their job, when you stand on a case for arraignment and they brought the defendant in and he's bruised up and looks like he's gotten his butt kicked by the police, whether he claims it or not, you describe what the defendant looks like on the record. So you preserve the record that just in case the police have acted violently or unreasonably, then you've got a record made, and you may, as the prosecutor, move against the police or throw the case out because of the police officer's bad conduct. I'd investigate that right after arraignment when I was in New York.
Folks, in New York, we're seeing these issues take place as well. One of the folks who wants to address that is Assemblyman Mike Blake, who is also running for Congress. Of course, the South Bronx is one of the poorest, most environmentally disadvantaged districts in the country. The primary is going to be on June 23rd. They're going after the seat by Congressman Jose Serrano, who is retiring. The district is heavily Democrat. 10 candidates are vying for the seat. Joining us is one of them is Assembly member Mike Blake. Mike, glad to have you on the show. We're seeing the same issues. Police in New York demanding respect. We saw the video of the union there as well. But the problem though is we see the videos there as well of people being assaulted, beaten with batons as well. I mean, cops want respect, demand respect, but you also got to give it.
Plain and simple, Roland, and good to see you, my brother. Look, the PBA has repeatedly had war against Black and Latino people. And what we've seen in the last 3 weeks, from, of course, George Floyd to the protest, to the cops driving in the crowds in Brooklyn, to what I saw last week on Brook Avenue here in the South Bronx, where people were being arrested and beaten, et cetera. They've done everything possible to try to go after our communities. And we got to be clear that this is the continuation of slave patrols. This is the continuation of just trying to find Black and brown folk every possible way. But in the last 48 hours, Roland, we've made major changes here in New York, which we're excited about. We repealed 50A, which is the law that protected police disciplinary records, particularly misconduct. Now there's going to be transparency on that. We expect that's going to be signed this week. We have data transparency, so we actually know who you're arresting and why. We finally had racial profiling so that can be ended within the police force. Those are the things that we've been fighting for years, and we just said enough is enough. And people were protesting as they should, and we salute that. But our job as electeds to make sure to change the laws, and we did that too.
Obviously, this is going to be, I think, the dominant issue for anybody who's running for Congress, and how they are going to address it. What will happen. I don't think there's anything else, because I don't see this ending soon. I think you're going to see the level of intensity in demanding police accountability all across this country, including in New York.
Oh, no question. No question. I've been saying very clearly throughout that there was a pandemic of poverty, a pandemic of racism, a pandemic of health disparities that existed long before the coronavirus pandemic. And all these pieces came together. And all we've been hearing in the last 2.5 weeks is, what have you done on criminal justice? What did you do on Repeal 58? We did that. What did you do before around police misconduct? And equally, Roland, we've been saying it makes no sense at all that you have members that are trying to run for Congress who are not focusing on building schools, but yet they want to build jails. And so within our race, where we now have 40 elected officials who have endorsed my campaign, 16 labor unions have endorsed my campaign, as we're trying to be the first Black person to represent the Bronx in Congress ever. And we've been real clear. At the end of the day, who was on the right side of justice? We're sick and tired of our folks being killed. And lastly, I'm running against one person named Ruben Diaz Sr., who's a Trump supporter who's been endorsed by the PBA. And on the other side, a gentleman named Richie Torres, who funded and supported the effort for 1,300 officers to be hired in 2015, but is now saying we should defund the cops. That's the kind of nonsense people are tired of. And all of our communities, Black, Latino, Garifuna, Caribbean, et cetera, are all speaking out criminal justice. And that's one of the reasons why we want to go to Congress here in the South Bronx.
All right. Assemblyman Mike Blake, we appreciate it. The primary is June 23rd. Scott, I know it hurts your feelings.
Don't do it. Don't say it. He cannot be an alpha. He cannot be another alpha. He is. Oh,
Late for Congress.
All right, Mike. 06, take care. I know it hurting your feelings. I know it's hurting your feelings. I'm sorry. Everybody ain't able. I keep trying to tell you, there are fraternities and there are youth groups. You are part of a youth group. All right, y'all. We got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk with the prosecutor in Prince George's County about a hate crime bill in the state of Maryland. That's one of the things we're going to talk about. Second, we're going to talk about Donald Trump. First of all, we're going to talk about Donald Trump. Y'all, guess where and when he is going to do his first rally since coronavirus? Tulsa, Oklahoma, on Juneteenth. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about Georgia, how despicable things were in Georgia yesterday when it came to voting. Oh, Raynard Jackson, I ain't forgot about your punk ass. I'm going to deal with you too on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Oh God, yesterday was actually an abomination voting in Georgia. Long lines. Folks could not even finish voting in some places until 12:30. Robert Patillo, you in Georgia. What the hell? You got the Secretary of State trying to say, Congressman Doug Collins trying to say, oh, it's those Democrat counties. They were the problem. Others say it was the Republicans who were in charge. What happened in Georgia?
Well, what happened is exactly what we expected to happen in Georgia, which is a complete and utter disaster of biblical proportions. Let's remember that after the 2018 race, where Stacey Abrams lost by primarily because of voter suppression and issues with collecting ballots throughout the state of Georgia spent $104 million on new voting machines through the state, which had not been updated since after the Bush v. Gore election in the year 2000. It's not simply Democratic counties where this took place. We started getting calls yesterday to the Rainbow Push Coalition at 6:51 a.m. before the polls even opened, telling us about polling issues from Bartow County, from Brunswick, Georgia, Montezuma, Oglethorpe, Albany, all the way up through Rome. It was a statewide issue, and that's why a coalition of groups, we've called ourselves the Coalition to Protect the Vote, this morning assembled, including the Rainbow Push Coalition, NAACP, SCLC, the Urban League, over a dozen named organizations, to call for the resignation or the recall of the Secretary of State of the state of Georgia and the immediate termination of the head of the Georgia State Elections Division. You got one job. if you're head of the state elections division and you have an election that falls through of this magnitude, where people have absolutely no faith and no confidence in the outcome of the election, there's no reason for you to keep your job going into the runoff next month or even going into the November election. We have to reform this system immediately because Georgia, quite frankly, is a purple state masquerading as a deep red state. Understand the population of Georgia is 33% African American, 10% Latino, 5% Asian, 52% female. We have one of the largest LGBTQ IAPK plus communities in the entire country in Midtown Atlanta and in Decatur. So the fact that we have not elected a Democrat statewide in 12 years since Thurber Baker back in the 2008 election shows you that the electoral outcomes do not match the demographics of the state. There are constitutional majorities for Republicans in the House, in the Senate, in the governor's mansion, and every single statewide constitutional office on the judiciary, and that's primarily through manipulation of redistricting back in 2010 and through schemes and efforts at suppressing the votes of minorities throughout the state. And if we allow this to continue, not just in Georgia, but throughout the South, that is how you see groups maintain an electoral majority despite not having a demographic majority. It's the exact same thing that took place in South Africa at the end of apartheid when they knew they would not be able to keep the demographics. So they went into the judiciary and they messed with elections to make sure they stayed in power as the invisible hand. So we need people in Georgia to stand up, we're doing a large march with the NAACP next Monday at 9 a.m. from the Richard B. Russell Federal Building to the state capitol. And we have to get boots on the ground, people in the street to make sure they hear our voices.
Scott, to understand what we're actually seeing, Stacey Abrams tweeted this an hour ago. A bright note, so far 858,000 Democratic votes have been counted in Georgia in spite of all the obstacles, and many more remain to be counted. By comparison, in the 2016 primary, 761,000 Democrats vote. Republicans are scared to death of a massive Democrat turnout this election, and that's why they're going to do all they can to suppress the vote.
They can't win without suppressing the vote. Some of them have even said so. Donald Trump has said so. But they've added something else to their repertoire now of not only closing polls and not having enough poll workers on election day, they've added chaos to it. So the chaos is it covered not only the Democratic polling places or Democratic strongholds, right, to suppress the vote, but the chaos covered Republican strongholds too. It wasn't just Democrat strongholds, it was Republican strongholds too. Some local Republicans complained about the long lines and the chaos that came from not having enough people trained in these new voting machines. It seems to me the Secretary of State and the head of elections in Georgia, they only got to perform once every 2 years. How hard can that be? You just got to be ready every 2 years for an election. And it's hard to look at those racial breakdown of numbers that Robert just gave us and say, why is it that no person of color can be elected statewide? There can be no other answer but suppression and chaos. And the courts have been involved, and it still is the dominant issue in the state of Georgia.
Because
something's got to be done.
Because Republicans are in charge, and they're doing it on purpose. Latasha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. This is what she posted on her page about somebody talking about their experience on yesterday.
I'm a caregiver. I live in Sandy Springs, and I had to take my client to go vote because she wanted to go vote in Sandy Springs, and we was in and out in 7 minutes. But I live here in Southwest Atlanta, so this is where I have to go vote. And I've been in line for at least 30 minutes already, and I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I have to go see other clients, so I'm going to, it's going to have to speed up at some point in time.
So how long you been in line already?
I've been in line for about 30, 35 minutes already.
35 minutes, gotcha. So you were in and out in Sandy Springs in 7 minutes?
7 minutes, flat.
Gotcha. What's your name?
Huh? Excuse me?
How long are people saying there's a wait?
People are saying that they're waiting for like about 2 hours, an hour. The line's not really moving. I've been here for 35 minutes, and I've been in the same spot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm a caregiver. I live in Sandy Springs, and I had to take my...
All right, come back, y'all. We played it once, Cleo Monago. She said, white part of town, 7 minutes. Black part, 2 hours.
The white supremacy, their agenda and their strategy has backfired. They put Trump in office in response, in my opinion, to Obama and Michelle and the blatant contradiction to the allegation at white is supreme, and they want to resolve that with Donald Trump, and they have lost. And frankly, nature, COVID, if you will, or I don't know if it's nature or man-made, but the bottom line is that these social issues have helped them to lose. And as Scott has mentioned, and as you just said, they're desperate. They cannot win without being corrupt. So they're going to be corrupt. Corruption has worked for them since George W. Bush, and before. Corruption has worked for them, but it's going to be difficult this time because there's some people who are white supremacists who are on the fence about whether to put their lives at risk for Donald Trump. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all this blows out. And I'll be convinced in terms of which side to believe is going to win later. I'm still not convinced that there's enough white people who are humane enough to make things happen on a decent level. But the bottom line is their strategy backfired. And one of the good things about what Georgia showed us as a case study is that people are coming out to vote.
Yeah.
People are going to vote.
Oh, yeah.
When this election comes up in November, folks who've never voted before, who didn't even vote when Obama was running, are going to come and vote this time.
Right.
And the Republican Party is in trouble.
Scott, 20 seconds. I got to go next door. 20 seconds.
We can't even call federal monitors. If there was a Democrat in the White House, you'd call a federal monitor and say, take over the election system or monitor. We can't even do that.
Well, you can't.
In the White House.
You can't call because you could thank Justice John Roberts for that. Okay, well, that's Supreme Court decision that essentially gutted the federal oversight when it comes to the elections. Folks, let's go to our next story. This week, 3 bills backed by the Office of the State's Attorney for Prince George's County became law and will go into effect on October 1st. The purpose of these new laws are to strengthen Maryland's hate crime statute, to make strangulation a first-degree felony and require more appropriate training for special police officers. Joining me now is State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy. Glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. This appropriate training for special police officers, what is that?
Well, I don't know how many states have special police officers, but this is a very important issue. Special police officers are not actually police officers trained in a police academy. Special police officers are hired by, businesses to really guard their property. However, in the state of Maryland, as in other jurisdictions, those special police officers have the power and authority of any other police officer, but only within the jurisdiction of that particular business. But they can use deadly force if they deem necessary against residents and visitors to that business or that establishment. It is a huge issue because oftentimes they're making decisions without the appropriate training. So they don't sit through, 6 months of training like other officers do. And they don't have routine in-service training like officers do. And they don't report to a hierarchy that includes law enforcement officers. Yet they have all of the power, authority, and the ability, again, to use any force that they deem necessary, including deadly force. And so this was a huge issue in Prince George's County, and I think in the District of Columbia. And A. Scott may be able to speak to some of the issues that have happened there with these special police officers. But we thought it was very important to make sure that they had some minimal level of training since they can exercise such authority.
The hate crime provision, that's important. Of course, you had the brother who was killed there, the Bowie State graduate who was headed to the military, and they declined to classify that as a hate crime, even though the individual was still convicted in that case. What does this actually strengthen? What did you go from, and what does it actually do, this new law?
Absolutely. Well, the way that the original law was written, it required prosecutors to prove that hate was the only motive in the commission of a crime. And as most lawyers can tell you, most crimes have mixed motives. So you can't say that in most cases that hate or any one particular motive was the only motive in the commission of a crime. That is a very high bar. And quite frankly, there were very few prosecutions around the state using that hate crime statute, and probably none within the last 2 or 3 years, at a time when we know that hate crimes were rising in Maryland. But again, because of that bar was set so high, it's almost impossible to prove unless someone screams out a racial epithet or something like that while they're committing the offense. However, the new law says that prosecutors have to show that hate was a substantial motivating factor in the commission of a crime. And that gives us, I think, greater ability to bring in important evidence that shows a person's motivation, their mindset, and one of the reasons why they committed that particular crime. And we think that if the law had been the law that recently passed back when we were prosecuting the Urbanski case, that we would have been able to get a conviction on the hate crime statute. We did get a first-degree murder conviction. We were able to actually present evidence around hate to prove motive in the first-degree murder, but we couldn't use it. Well, we did use it to try to prove the hate crime, but the judge dismissed that charge before it went to the jury. So we were disappointed with that, that the judge did dismiss that charge before the jury had an opportunity to deliberate on it. But we decided to take it to Annapolis, to change the law, to make it better for other prosecutions in the future.
All right. Aisha Brave Boy, last question for you.
Yes.
What do you make of, again, you have all this conversation about defund the police, which is not about shutting police departments down. It's actually about redirecting resources to mental health and other services. So can you share your thoughts about that this notion of defund the police and your perspective on it?
You know, it makes a lot of sense when you really think about some of the defendants that we encounter. I can tell you that most of our arson defendants, let's say, most of them have a mental health issue. And so, you know, it would be more helpful for them to be directed to mental health services than the court system, because when that case comes to the prosecutor's office, you know, we have a job to do. We have to seek justice for our victims. We do take into consideration, obviously, that individual circumstance, but we don't have the tools in-house to really impact that person's life on a social, emotional level, which is what they need. In addition to that, when I look at what we're doing around youth diversion, my office took a proactive stance on young people. We don't want to prosecute our young people unless we absolutely have to. And so we've been diverting young people into community-based programs, counseling service, and others. But again, that's after they've been arrested, after they've been in the process at some point, which could potentially further traumatize them. So I think that if the engagement with officers on the street could provide a pathway to the services that that individual actually needs, then that's a better engagement for our officers. So one of the things that I am going to be pushing for is getting rid of the quotas in these police departments, because I think that drives a lot of the police stops, that drives a lot of the unnecessary charging. Oftentimes my office has to null process or dismiss charges because we understand that people, you know, they need to fix their let's say traffic offenses, or they have relatively minor offenses that we think could be handled better in another forum. But that's after they have had the collateral consequence of being arrested, potentially subject to being committed to the jail for a period of time, and having to, you know, appear before court, potentially pay bail, hire an attorney. There's so many things that happen when an individual is arrested that we can avoid if we redirected our police department to be more service-oriented as opposed to just enforcement-oriented.
All right, Aisha Brave Boy, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, we'll come back, folks, from this real quick break. NASCAR says no more Confederate flags. NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace, who is black, is going to drive a car that says Black Lives Matter. Also, the U.S. Navy says, can't fly that flag either. But Donald Trump defends military bases named after Confederate traitors. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks. NASCAR announced that Bubba Wallace, of course, African-American driver in the NASCAR circuit, is going to be driving this car in their races. You see, he drives the car number 43. You see that image that's on the front of the hood of the car. That was, of course, similar to the photo that Drew Brees posted. And then you see there, it says compassion, love, understanding. That's what it says there. And of course, you see it's also going to be on the back of his car. And you see Black Lives Matter is going to be on both sides of his car. Now, that's what the car looks like. Now, this also came down today. That was frankly surprising to a lot of different people. You want to understand how far we've come? Go to my iPad. NASCAR statement: the presence of the Confederate flag at NASCAR events runs contrary to our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans, our competitors, and our industry. Bringing people together around the love for racing and the community that it creates is what makes our fans and sports special. The display of the Confederate flag will be prohibited from all NASCAR events and properties. Lord Cleo, these white folks gonna lose their mind. They can't fly their flag.
Well, you might think I lost my mind when I say think I'm petty when I say that I wish both of the hands on the Black Lives Matter card were black. But that's just me. As far as I'm concerned, black people...
You wish it for too much.
No, I told y'all Cleo's super black. I told y'all that.
I think black people need to matter to black people, and that we need to focus on the importance of that, because that's an issue in the society. And one of the impacts of normalized white supremacy that has been doing what it wants to do with some challenge up until now, because of what's happening, because of all these different factors, it hasn't been internalized by a lot of us, and we need to work on that. So that's why I wish both of those hands were black, because I want black folks to know that our lives will matter. But of course, getting rid of the Confederate flag is very symbolic, and people want to keep making money regardless of what is happening, and they want to not look like racists. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of what's going on here is people not wanting to be associated with racism regarding of how they really feel, and getting rid of the flag is good enough sacrifice to not be seen as racist, even while being racist. For example, the NFL, which showed they were racist in terms of how they treated Colin Kaepernick, have now come out and apologized because it's become PC to act like you care about black people. But if they cared about black people, he would have gotten a gig a long time ago. We wouldn't have to talk about him not being employed. So some of this stuff is just sheep's clothing PC drama, and I'm not buying all of it.
But Cleo, here's the deal, if I may. Are you bragging or complaining? It's got to be a good step in the right direction, or are you still complaining?
I already said that I think that it's a
in their
good
heart or
thing
soul?
that we moved here, and that no matter how many people are in politically correct, don't like white supremacy drag, if it results in there being some legislation that reduces police brutality and the murder of black people, I'm down with it. But I'm still want to look at the fact that these factors are here, so we won't think we resolved everything because we focus on police brutality. Robert mentioned earlier about these corporations who are joining, I'm paraphrasing, but who are acting like they're part of the Black Lives Movement because they want people they want a deflection from their own racism.
Well, in fact,
even Roland has talked about CNN and other networks who are ran predominantly by white people who are acting like they care about Black Lives Matter because it's politically correct right now to act that way.
But you can't make them care or change what's in their heart.
Your concern, Scott, I'm still glad that maybe some people won't die now because cops will be put on notice that they can't do this anymore. That's a good thing.
Robert?
But it's...
Look, I'm a son of the South. I grew up watching NASCAR. So there's always Confederate flags present. The Doobie Brothers playing and Bud Light around. So this is a step in the correct direction. But if they really want to put their money in their mouth where their mouth is and not just do a lot of window dressing, it's easy to paint a car. How many NASCAR teams are they willing to sell to black people now? What kind of youth education program are they willing to do to bring NASCAR into the inner cities to get young black boys driving race cars in 10 years? The same way when Tiger Woods started playing golf, we started golf programs sprouting up around the country. The same way that baseball has invested in inner city baseball programs. When it comes to training of engineers and pit crews, what are you going to do to diversify that? So I do enjoy the window dressing. You know, I think I'm going to watch this race on Saturday just to see if they try to run that brother off the road. But what I do want to make sure is that they really do the hard and the finite things to ensure that we're making systemic changes and not just window dressing. But he should definitely put a couple extra seatbelts on.
We're saying the same thing, Robert.
Scott, go ahead, Scott.
I don't know what's wrong with you people. We can't seem to satisfy you people. We're doing the best we can.
Who are you calling you people?
Applaud us and push us further.
All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this here, y'all. So there's been talk. The defense secretary said that he was going to consider renaming these military bases named after Confederate generals, those traitors. The New York Times had published an article on Memorial Day weekend talking about these military bases and how they are memorials to Confederate traitors. Well, then the Pentagon spokesman of the conservatives were tweeting about how they felt that was inappropriate for the New York Times to write that story on Memorial Day weekend. So it's like, okay, don't write it today, but let's write it some other time. Gotcha. So guess what Agent Orange did? Go to my iPad. This is what Donald Trump tweeted today. It has been suggested that we should rename as many as 10 of our legendary military bases, such as Fort Bragg in North Carolina, Fort Hood in Texas, Fort Benning in Georgia, etc. These monumental and very powerful bases have become part of a great American heritage and a history of winning, victory, and freedom. The United States of America trained and deployed our heroes on these hallowed grounds and won 2 world wars. Therefore, my administration would not even consider the renaming of these magnificent and fabled military installations. Our history as the greatest nation in the world would not be tampered with. Respect our military. Now, here's what is so interesting. This idiot is talking about how the hallowed grounds and they fought in World War II. You know, the bases where black soldiers couldn't go. The bases where black soldiers were segregated during World War I and World War II. Isn't it amazing? This idiot has no understanding of any of this, but actually he does because he's appealing to white supremacy. Mm-hmm. He's appealing to those white voters. That's why the group of Republicans, the Never Trumpers with the Lincoln Project, produced this ad.
The men who followed this flag 150 years ago knew what it meant. Treason against their country. The death of the United States. America defeated the men who followed that flag. Those with honor surrendered and cast it aside forever. So why does it keep showing up today at events supporting Donald Trump? And why does he call the folks who carry it very fine people?
I think there's blame on both sides, but you also had people that were very fine people.
What does it say that they're all in for Trump? What does it say that he won't condemn a flag of hate, division, and losers?
Will not replace us!
For us, it says this is a time for choosing America or Trump.
Well, now Trump announces he's going to be returning to his rallies, and he's going to be holding one in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Juneteenth. This is also the 99th anniversary of the Tulsa race riots. Cleo, I got a feeling his ass is going to be met with one of the biggest Juneteenth protests he's ever seen.
Well, let's hope so.
I got a feeling that's going to happen.
You got to give Trump credit for consistently being ridiculous and insane and irrational, but making America great again simultaneously. You know, you got to give it to him. And he's chosen one of the most powerful places in this country in terms of Black history to do what he's doing, because he's trying to rev up Black votes. I mean, this is obvious what he's trying to do, and we'll see what happens. But everybody's not going to be resisting Donald Trump. Now, the people who are going to resist him might be loud enough to drown out anybody else, but there's going to be some people who are going to welcome Donald Trump because he's the president of the United States, and he's not going to be booed by everyone. But, of course, I think it's ridiculous.
He's going to get a welcome.
The same dude who is supporting white supremacists is going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to ground zero for some of the most powerful Black success in this country historically. Go on, Trump. Got to give it to him. He's consistently ridiculous.
Well, look, Roland, I think to Cleo's note, I think that if he's doing this, it may be an opportunity for him to really announce a large policy. We've been asking for the last week, what's the Republican plan? What's the Republican policy to address police brutality, to address racial inequalities? How are we going to hit these issues head on? So this would be the perfect time for Trump to announce that he's going to take Bob Johnson's plan and announce reparations for Black folks. So if he does that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, then, then MAGA 2020, by all means. So if that's what he's planning on doing, then I think he should go ahead and do it. It'll be a great symbolism. I think Bob Johnson said 14 trillion. I'll bump that up to maybe 24 trillion, and I'll wait for the check.
Well, he's so desperate he might try something like
that. Are your guests talking about, Roland? Are they
First
serious?
of all, well, Scott, he's being facetious, obviously.
Oh,
now make
I'm
your
sorry.
damn point. See, you
sorry.
Kappas can't process information.
I process enough. We need to have the largest turnout of Black Lives Matter, whether you're a member or not of Black people at that rally, protesting outside with mask on, if he's going to do that. That is just purely racist and insane.
Well, speaking of being insane, today at the White House, Donald Trump called some of his Black flunkies.
Oh, this is going to be good.
And one of them is Republican, Black conservative.
Your boy.
Raynard Jackson. So, y'all, I'm going to play for y'all
what
Raynard actually said today. Watch this.
My name is Raynard Jackson. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Daryl, for inviting us to this roundtable here. I'm from St. Louis, originally live here in Virginia. But what I'd like to say to you, Mr. President, is kind of off the beaten path. I'd like to say to all the media assembled here that I wish they would quit lying about what you've done specifically for the Black community. So you got radical liberal journalists like Joy Reid from MSNBC, Don Lemon from CNN, Roland Martin, who are putting more poison into the Black community than any drug dealer, who are killing more Black folks than any white person with a sheet over their face. How are they doing it? Spreading these lies about the economy you had, Mr. President, before the virus was a continuation of Obama. That's just factually not true. I have a degree in accounting. I keep up with the economy. They're lying. So to all these folks on MSNBC, CNN, Roland Martin, what, you're afraid to have real Black Republicans who know what the hell they're talking about? If you want to know the truth, if you want us to dissect the Obama economy, let's do it. And I think, Mr. President, your record will win the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And, it's interesting you say that, but you go down a list of criminal justice reform and all of the things we've done, opportunity zones, the best unemployment rate in the history just before the plague came in. And it's going to be back again soon. I think it's going to be back again a lot sooner than people think. I think last...
Raynard, bring your ass. Bring your ass. Now, y'all, we've been calling Raynard since this video came out. First, he wasn't returning the phone calls. Then, all of a sudden, we called him, and then his assistant responds by saying he's still at the White House in meetings. Now, we all know he lying. Matter of fact,
oh, gosh. Here we go. Here we go.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Raynard Jackson
Is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
So I hear you decide to mention my name twice at the White House, but why are you conveniently avoiding my phone calls and that of my booker, Raynard? Since you so grown and bold talking trash at the White House, why don't you bring your ass on Roland Martin Unfiltered and let's actually talk about what you're talking about? Maybe you scared to come on my show after I wore your ass out on TV One when you lied about the political action donors to your committee. Oh yeah, you remember that? Remember when you said you had thousands of donors to your PAC and it was a lie and it was essentially funded by the Mercer family? Oh yeah. When you come on, I'm going to roll the tape to remind you of that. And so since you also want to talk about folks who don't have the facts on the economy, when did the economic resurgence start in America? Didn't we just enter into a recession in February, ending the longest consecutive streak of positive economic growth? When did all of that start? I don't think it started in January of 2017. So Raynard, since you think you big and bad and talking trash in front of Trump and saying I won't have real black Republicans, I guess Eugene Craig is not real. I guess Chris Metzler, he's not real. I guess Derek Holley, he's not real. I guess those aren't real black conservatives. I've had R.C. Maxwell. Is he real? I've had, your boy Deontay. We know he weak, but is he real? Now, maybe he not real. But so, Raynard, let me know. Wednesday, today Wednesday, Thursday, 6 to 8, pick a time, bring your ass. Friday, 6 to 8, pick a time, anytime, because I'm telling you, I got something for you. So since you think you big and bad in front of Trump, why don't you come talk to me since you want to call somebody out? And I'm going to teach you how a grown man going to give you a spanking before the public. You got my number.
Roland, how do you spell your ass? Bring your ass. How do you spell it?
Bring your ass. That's all one word. Bring your ass.
Bring your ass.
It's all one word. That's all I want to know. See,
actually,
he ain't
it's
been
three
answered.
words, but
he ain't been, no, it's one word.
It's
bring
three
your
words,
ass.
proper English, the Queen's English. Bring your ass.
No,
but
no,
I
bring
like your ass.
The only
I
people
like
that
it.
speak proper English are in England. Americans do not speak proper English. So let's not even go there.
See, here's the deal, okay? I'm telling you. All these Trump people, and then y'all, he actually said, I've got a degree in accounting. You couldn't even count the number of people who donated to your political action committee. And you, dog, I got it on tape.
I remember that. I remember
got
that
it on
when we were on TV One.
He said on TV One and said, I don't know, we have thousands of donors. Y'all, we went back and counted. I think it was like 28. But he got a degree in accounting. Robert,
why y'all gotta bring Deontay in there? Deontay, my boy, he cool.
Deontay, if he your boy, that boy need to go read some
Deontay
books.
was weak the last time he was on.
That boy was so weak. That boy was so weak on the election night. The other black conservatives said, "Don't put his ass back on. Don't put it."
But aren't you amazed at the power and impact of the white supremacy trauma trance, and how it could run some of us stone crazy, and have us do what he just did, and what some other Republicans is. I mean, it's just amazing. That's why I said earlier, Roland, that the issue of internalized oppression and in terms like white supremacy is a real issue in our community that we need to deal with simultaneously to these other achievements, or else we're going to relapse.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to tell you, when Paris Denard came on here, Robert, he tried to sit here and spin some stuff. He must have thought he was talking to Willie Foo-Foo. They don't understand. I got CVS long receipts.
There's a group of black Republicans who are serious, who are textually based, who are about accountability and about bringing things to our community. And there's some who are actors and who are sensationalists, who are internet celebrities, so on and so forth. So I think that we have similar issues on both sides of the aisle. I think that once we can bring policy issues together, where both sides can come together, that's when we'll move furthest in the community. So I tend to focus on the legislative issues that we can agree on, and not the personality issues that drive us apart.
Scott, I got time. Scott, I got time.
I got time. You don't like for us to use certain names on your show, but looking at him suck up to Trump like he was in the field trying to get a job in the House, was just completely embarrassing for black people or for black Republicans. I mean,
He didn't
really,
embarrass me.
give me
I
a
don't feel
break.
embarrassed.
I mean, I got to tell you, I thought to myself, how many pieces of silver did he take this time in order to say that on national TV?
Well, the reason he said it is because he ain't got a real constituency. He been taking, Raynard Jackson has been taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Mercers, and he ain't delivered nothing. Raynard Jackson can't put 30 black people in a room to talk about anything. And so he's mad. He's still mad at the Republican Party. He claims took his idea from their Black History Month event. And if y'all really want to laugh, okay, Raynard been writing a column. Maybe he still writes. I don't know with NMPA. If y'all really want to laugh, y'all, this fool actually put at the bottom of his column, Pulitzer Prize nominated columnist Raynard Jackson. I sent that fool an email and said, dumbass, anybody can nominate themselves for a Pulitzer Prize.
Right.
His application didn't even get past the receptionist. They probably, so the envelope went, Raynard, oh, hell no, he ain't no real. Been gone.
Well, who writes that? Who writes that at the end of a column?
Pulitzer Prize nominated.
That?
I said, you must be rough when you ain't got no real awards where you got to put Pulitzer Prize nominated.
Bless his heart.
Bless his little heart.
That made no sense.
You can bless his
This
little
makes no
You
sense.
can bless his little heart. But Raynard, when you come here, I'm telling you right now, you might want to put on, you might want to strap some phone books around your waist.
Oh,
like they do
Roland,
in like they do in prison. Because what's gonna happen? You're gonna take some body blows. And I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be so hard, you're gonna be hollering, Daddy, stop! Daddy, stop! I'm gonna sit here and it's gonna be team whip that ass when I'm done with you. Because see, here's
If
the
you
thing.
want to come, you gotta have a more sweeter and warm and loving delivery.
He's an alpha.
No, he's not.
That's not
beat up an alpha. Yes, he is.
No, he's not. Nice
He's
try.
an alpha.
But here's the deal, Raynard.
He's an alpha?
Hell no.
Yeah.
Pick a day. Raynard, pick a day. Pick a day. Take your time. But I'm telling you right now, don't go to Candace Owens for some coaching, because it ain't going to end well, player. It ain't going to end well.
She won't come on either.
It's not going to end well. Because you say you're a real Republican. Okay.
Bro, their job is not rational engagement. Their job is not to address black people who can actually take what they say and evaluate it and make it ridiculous. Their job is to do exactly what they do. They're to put some rhetoric out in the culture to make us second guess ourselves as black people.
I'm here 5 days a week.
Second guess our rational behavior. That's their job.
5 days a week.
But look, if they're going to be around the table speaking to the president, maybe we should have conversations with them about delivering the actual message of our community to the people in power. I think there's the ability to articulate
our community, Robert. Raynard Jackson not talking to black folks in the community. Robert, let me tell you what Raynard's recognized game. Raynard is a grifter.
Yes.
We showed the data. The Mercers have given him more than $400,000 for his Black Political Action Committee, and the biggest expenditure was his salary. He's a grifter, and that's why he was at the table. But again, Raynard, I'm here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. We talk to your assistant. Let me know which hour you want tomorrow. Because matter of fact, I'll give you an hour, but it ain't going to take an hour. Because you know what? After about 4 minutes, you're going to be screaming for your mama and your daddy when I'm done with you. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting. All right.
Aren't you worried about defaming him, though?
No.
I mean, I'll defend you, but
come on,
you
Scott.
called him a grifter. You told me you're going to whip his ass. Are you okay?
I'm very well. I'm very well. But all I know is
rolling out at the White House, man.
Show me what you did with all the money you got from the Mercers. But again, he sat on my show and lied publicly. The man with a accounting degree said he had thousands of donors. I think he had about 20 or 30.
Yeah, I think I was on the show that day.
I don't know 20 or 30 equal thousands. But I'll be more than happy to entertain Raynard Jackson. Scott, Robert, Cleo, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Folks, after this break, we're going to talk a little yoga. Raynard's going to need some yoga when I'm done with him. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, y'all. A number of studies have shown that yoga may help reduce stress and anxiety. I think cussing folks out does it. And enhance your mood, and overall sense of well-being. Joining me right now is Derek DJ Townsend, a former NFL player turned personal trainer and international yoga instructor. All right, Derek. So, what is yoga? Just a bunch of stretching? What is it?
No, it's not a bunch of stretching. It's centering your body, centering your mind, finding the source, whatever that source may be. If it's God, if it's Allah, finding that source within yourself through stretching. But it's a lot deeper than that once you actually get into it and understand what you're doing and how you're pretty much activating different energy systems in your body and bringing it all together with movement and breath. So it's for me, it's prayer, it's therapy, it's exercise. So it's so many different things than just stretching.
So you got a lot of Christians who say, "Oh, I'm not doing that yoga thing. I mean, that's like against my faith." I see you start laughing.
Well, I get that a lot, and especially in our community. But what I tell them is, once they realize and do the research and find out that yoga actually started in Egypt, ancient Egypt, and then traveled to India, then they start to realize, okay, this is a practice that was actually started by us. So you got to do your research. You can't just, just because it's something you don't know about doesn't mean that it should be automatically written off.
So how do you start? Okay, so like where do you start? I mean, look, you got classes, but also, you got online stuff on social media, DVDs. So if somebody out there is saying, you know what, I really want to be able to get into yoga, where do they start?
You start by going to a studio, and if that's something, if you need the one-on-one in-person experience, then you go to a studio. Reach out to local yogis. There's a million of them on Instagram and social media now. Or you can start, how I started was on YouTube. So I just looked up beginner yoga videos and just started following along, 20 minutes a day for about 6 months until I felt comfortable enough to go out on my own and do my own practice and then go from there. So there's way too many resources, and Google's our best friend. We can find anything we want on Google. So something that's good for your body and your mind and your spirit can be found on Google as well.
And I'll be honest with you. It does center you and just calm everything down. Like a lot of times I have difficulty going to sleep because my mind is just racing with thoughts and work, and if I want to write something and projects. And I have this DVD of Rodney Yee. Now here's the crazy thing. I got AM yoga and PM yoga, but the AM yoga DVD actually helps me go to sleep. And what's interesting about it is I got like 26 minutes. And it's so weird. The PM yoga don't do jack for me. But the AM yoga one completely slows me down. And if I finish that and immediately get up and go right in the bed, it doesn't take me long to go to sleep. Because I'm telling you, it just completely just shuts everything down and completely slows you down and puts you right into that state of mind.
I would like to see what that AM yoga sequence looks like, because there's different styles of yoga. There's yoga nidra, which is actually yoga to help you sleep. It's like a sleep-driven meditation. Then there's restorative yoga, where it's a lot more gentle and it's for, restoring the muscles. Then there's, the more physical yoga, which is what I mainly practice. But I mean, it just depends on which route you want to take. There's so many different styles out there, especially now with, you know, the westernization of yoga taking so many forms to, you know, earn money. You know, they've come up with so many different ways to market it.
All right, man. Well, first of all, where can people reach out to you? Where can they get more information?
My website is Dade, D-A-D-E, the number 2, S-H-E-L-B-Y, Shelby.net. And that's my Instagram as well, Dade2Shelby. That's my Facebook, everything I try to keep the same.
All right. Well, Derek, we certainly appreciate it, man. Hopefully folks will tap into and find their inner self and slow everything down. So we appreciate it.
I hope so. We need it now more than ever.
Yes, indeed, brother. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, folks. Those of you who are giving $50 or more for our Bring the Funk fan club, time to shout your names out. Amma Busk-Wofi, Anthony Smith, Anthony Steele, Ariella Brimley, Arian Tyson, Audrey Shields, Brenda Shakur, Brian Lucas, Brown Ski Girl, Carlette Straken, Carol, Sherry Ann, Cynthia Johnson, Edward King, Ella Busby, Farley Johnson, Frida Atkins, Gemelina Jackson, James Bird, Janet McFadden, Johnny Johnson, Keith Cleanscales, Carrie Ann Dawkins, Kimberly Deal, Letty Smile, Lisa Norman, Lisa Young, Marvin Bryant, Michael Bell, Michael Pope, Millie Ward, Naima Wright, Naneka Nickens, Phyllis Paris Borum, Rita, Richard Walton, Robbie Thomas, Rosalind Frazier, Ruby Douglas, Sheila McGee, Sherry Jameson, Stephanie Cooper, Stephen Edmonds, Terry Henry, Thomas McCroskey, Women of Icon International. All right, folks, one of the reasons we desire for you to support what we do is because we're all about being able to bring you information you're not getting elsewhere. Of course, us going out there covering the Floyd family along with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Ben Crump. That's the stuff that we do. Being able to bring you news and information and analysis you're not getting anywhere else. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our followers to donate $50 or more over the course of the year. Yo, that completely funds what we do here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, meaning won't have to rely on any advertising dollars at all. We appreciate our sponsors, but we also want to be able to remain independent as well. And so what you do, Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is paypal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. We also have Venmo, venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. You can also send a check or a money order to New Vision Media Inc. Make the check out or the money order, make the money order, please, to New Vision Media. That's the parent company of Roland Martin Unfiltered. 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 20006. All right, folks, that is it for us. Let's see if Raynard is going to answer our text messages or phone calls. I'm here. You man enough to show up? I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla!